Welcome everybody to GG Dallas March 2020. We're going to be doing a Flutter hands-on workshop with our host, Roman Jaquez. I don't know if I've ever said your last name out loud.
You got it. You got it.
Yeah, there you go. It's always fun to hear me butcher people's names. He's a senior software development engineer at Philips Health Systems. He's a Google certified cloud architect. He's a mentor for the GDG Northeast region, as well as the GDG Lawrence lead organizer. But all that aside, he's also a Flutter Google developer expert, which means he has been vetted by Google and they say this guy knows his stuff. So he'll be hosting our workshop tonight, which is great for everyone. I'm looking forward to it. Take it away, Roman.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I just wanted to say thank you for the invitation. Thank you for letting me share my knowledge in Flutter with your community. You and I met a couple of years ago at the GDG Summit in Miami. That's why I keep referring back to that. Those were like the good old days. And also, aside from all those titles that I have, I used to also bring coffee to Danny Thompson. That was my main job right there, just to bring him coffee. So yeah, I was really happy about that. So I just wanted to say thank you guys and everyone for joining. I'm Roman, like I said. Luke, you couldn't have done this introduction much better. But again, I'm really passionate about Flutter. I hope that I will make this session very worthwhile to you. I may not be giving you $5,000, but I will give you a little bit more, which is knowledge on Flutter and a lot of resources that you can leverage to build very robust applications right now. So at the end of this session, you're going to walk away with great resources so that you can build your own applications without breaking the bank. And that is exactly what we're here for. So thank you everybody for joining. This is the Flutter hands-on workshop. Thank you GDG Dallas for the invitation. Can you guys see my screen well? Perfect. Awesome. So let's proceed. So these are some of my social media channels. I have a YouTube channel where I usually post about Flutter and other technologies, but mainly Flutter. I also do like Twitch live streaming, so you guys can make fun of me while I make mistakes, live coding on Twitch. So yeah, take advantage of that right there. Also, I have my portfolio site where you can check out all the things that I've done, all the things that I've built in Flutter and other technologies as well. And last but not least, you can follow me on Twitter at DRCoders. That is my handle. And there you could also see other events related to Flutter and me engaging with the community. And you can see like a bunch of the things that I've been posting related to Flutter. So I appreciate if you guys could follow me there and then we can stay in touch. So I truly appreciate you guys doing that. Thank you so much. I just wanted like a quick icebreaker, just if you could just drop in the chat. I just wanted to get to know you a little bit better. So it's a little bit of a prompt for the audience. So after work, what do you do? Are you more of the type of person who forgets about, coding and you just like binge watch the next Netflix series, or you work on a side project? Or you just do a little bit of both. So you can drop in the chat either like +1, +2, +3, whatever applies to you. Just wanted to gauge a little bit of what the audience, is all about. I'll just move the chat over. But yeah, like in my particular case, yeah, I see that a lot of people actually fall under the 3. That's the kind of person that I am. So instead of, right now my son is like playing upstairs, and I do enjoy time with my family, but I'm really passionate about Flutter and even like building stuff outside of work. I do my 8 to 5, but then after that, that's when like my real work I think begins, because I'm really passionate about building stuff, sharing with the community, and doing stuff like we're doing right now. So I really appreciate everybody joining tonight. I'll definitely make it worth your while, and appreciate everybody sharing that. So I hope that you'll definitely enjoy this session. Okay, let's continue. So yeah, so if you're here, you're either like bumped into this session and you don't know what Flutter is. Well, Flutter is an open source framework developed by Google that you can use to develop natively compiled applications with one single code base. It was created like in 2017. It's not that old, but now it's taken the industry by storm because you can build a bunch of like with one single code base using the Dart programming language. You can target multiple platforms. You can target mobile, embedded, desktop, web, a bunch of things, a bunch of those frameworks. I used to be one of those developers that used to have 3 IDEs open in my computer. Like I would have Xcode to do Objective-C and iOS applications, Android Studio to do Android applications, Visual Studio to do like Windows Phone apps and all that. So, and even Xamarin. Now I've just thrown all that away. I just keep it Visual Studio Code and I just do Dart and I can publish to all those 3 platforms. So I love the fact that, Flutter has given, there's a vibrant community, a lot of resources, great information for you to build your applications. So I hope that after this session, you can take away something from there. And in tonight's session, we're going to be dealing with Flutter and Firebase. So Flutter is the framework using Dart that you can build mobile applications, web applications, desktop applications. Firebase is a suite of tools also provided by Google that you can build serverless backends for your Flutter applications. So for those of you not familiar with Firebase, again, it is built on top of the Google Cloud, and it's a suite of applications and offerings that provide you very easy to use and very flexible features that you can use to build your applications. You get like cloud storage, you get like cloud functions, you get like the crown jewels of Firebase, which is called Cloud Firestore, which is a NoSQL database that is very robust. It has multi-regional support. You can build you can power your applications by having data in a NoSQL database, and you can feed all that data into your Flutter applications. And what I'm going to also be showing you tonight is how you can create a Firebase project for free. You don't have to pay anything, and then you can power your Flutter applications with ease. That's exactly what we're going to be doing tonight. So hang in there. I'm going to be showing you how to do that. So how to participate in this Flutter workshop. So you don't have to install anything. Eventually, of course, when you're going to publish your applications, you would have to do that. But in this workshop, I want you to maximize your learning experience in Flutter. We're going to be using something called DartPad.dev. I can drop the link in the chat, but if you can try to visit right now, DartPad.dev is a web-based IDE for learning Flutter online. All you need is a browser. You don't need to install anything. Tonight, we're going to be coding in DartPad.dev, and you can even see that the same code that you do in DartPad.dev, you can just copy it and put it in Visual Studio Code, and you can publish your application. You can actually build a full-blown application in DartPad.dev, believe me, believe it or not. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing. I'll also be dropping in the chat the link to this code lab, which I've also created myself for this specific occasion. I'm dropping it right now in the chat. So thank you. Yeah, so Jeffrey already had that. Thank you so much. So that is thank you very much for dropping that link. So that is the code lab that we're going to be doing tonight so that we can tackle Flutter in Firebase. At the end of the session, you will see like a very cool interaction that we're going to be building, because this is going to be a community-centric type of session. So let's proceed. So yeah, without further ado, let's start with DartPad. So I'm just going to escape out of this, out of the presentation, and I'm going to visit DartPad.dev. So this is one of the things that you need to have in order to start, to complete the session that I'm going to be building here. So DartPad is this web-based IDE, also provided by Google, that you can use to code in DartPad and also do Flutter applications. The way that you do DartPad is you, at the top left corner of this web IDE, you can just click here where it says New Pad. I hope you guys can see the screen well, and I hope I'm not going too fast. So I'm going to click New Pad, and then you get this option. You either do Dart or Flutter. Dart is the main language. Flutter is the framework. So we want to have, we want to do Dart inside of the Flutter framework. So you select Flutter, you click Create, And then you get like some sort of boilerplate code that you need like in order to start things up. And we're gonna get to that in a minute. But in order then to run your code as you type it here in DartPad, you click on this button that says run. When you click it here, on the right-hand side of DartPad, you will see like the preview of what we will be building. So when you hit run, you just wait like, a few seconds, and then you start seeing the code. So this is exactly what we will be doing. So now I will invite you to click on the link that I dropped on the chat. And this is the code lab that we will be doing tonight. So I will be copying it. I will open another tab, and then I'll just drop it in there. And this is, if you go to the first step in the code lab, I'm walking you through this workshop. We won't be building the whole thing today, but at least what we will be doing is creating the minimum requirements for you to create something that can connect to your Firebase backend. So what we're going to be building in this workshop is this third page right here. So we're going to be building a very simple Flutter application. We're going to start it from scratch. So we're going to be building this application. If you want to do it on your own, please go ahead, and you will end up with a very working version of this application already connected to a Firebase backend, pulling from a NoSQL database and just consuming that data. And this same approach, you can apply it on a real life application. Does that sound like a deal? Great. So let's start. So if I would invite you again to go to step number 1, where I walk you through what we're going to be doing in the workshop. So we're going to be doing like a splash page, a landing page, a community page. We're going to be focusing on the community page. But at least if you complete this workshop, you will learn how to pull data from Firebase, Cloud Firestore, which is the NoSQL database, and you will be implementing real-time updates. Like that's one of the crown jewels of Firebase Cloud Firestore, which gives you a real-time connection to a NoSQL database so that you can implement stuff like a chat, like a chat application, something that gives you like a real-time communication with a database. Also, of course, you're going to be learning Flutter and how to build user interfaces with ease. Let's go to step number 2, where I detail what are the prerequisites. In this case, I say no prerequisites because you're only going to need a computer browser with an internet connection. That's all you need. You see, that's it. Let's go to step number 3. So we're flying through this code lab. And then on step number 3, I show you how to launch DartPad. So DartPad, remember, is this web-based IDE for you to learn Flutter. You can use this in your own events or even yourself. Like you don't want to install anything, but you want to create like a quick prototype, send it to somebody. You can use a DartPad for that. So I showed you how to launch DartPad. I hope everybody also in there, and I see Joaquin says, the hello world is there. Okay, you can see that. Yeah, you don't need to install anything, exactly. You don't need to install any SDK. That's the great thing about DartPad. It's all pre-installed for you, and you can just use it off of the browser. It's a great question anyway. So yeah, I show you how to do that. So everybody should be in DartPad with a hello world. And let me just step again. You can just click again on new pad if you want to create another one. Make sure that you select Flutter and you click on create, and you're going to end up exactly the same way that you were before. It just creates a little sandbox again for you so that you can do your coding. Perfect. So let's proceed. So I'm continuing. This is exactly the same steps that I did. So now let's go to step number 4. So we're going to step a little bit away from DartPad, and I'm going to show you now how you can create a free Firebase project so that you can use it not only just for this demo or for this tutorial, you can use it for your real applications, even using the free one. Yes, you don't believe me? I will show you right now. You don't have to pay a dime. I've built applications already in Flutter where I have not received a bill from Google. And believe me, they've already in production. Because Firebase, what it gives you a tier, like it has multiple tiers. So we're gonna be consuming the free tier, which is called the Spark tier, which gives you a threshold of amount of storage and amount of calls, and even like the amount of space that it gives you for you to get going and start with your project. So let me show you how to do that. So I see a lot of people already excited about it. So let's do that. So in step number 4, you can follow along on step number 4. If you feel adventurous, you can go. but I want you to follow along. So let's start with that. The first thing that I will ask you to do is go to the Firebase console. I will open this in another tab, and here you are. So the Firebase console is a fully managed environment where you manage your project. This is sitting on top of the Google Cloud, and you can create a Firebase project, which will it will provision a bunch of resources for you within that free tier. So let me show you how to do that. In the step number 4, I'm going to go and create the first project. In your particular case, if you're coming for the first time, make sure that you are in console firebase.google.com. I just dropped the link in the chat. Just click there, and everybody, let's be on the same page. So it's because I have a bunch of projects already created. You probably have like a limit, like about 10 projects that you can create, but then you can start creating your own right now. And I'm going to show you how you're going to do that. So how do you create a project for free in Firebase running on the Google Cloud without you putting a credit card and not paying a cent? This is how you do it. In the Code Lab, if this is your first time coming, you will see this interface where it tells you welcome to Firebase, and you have a button that says create projects. In my particular case, because I already have projects created, you will see this, but you get this big button up over here that says add a project. So I am going to add a new project under Firebase. I'm going to do that, and I click add project. So the first step that you're going to get is you got to give a name to your project. In my particular case, you can call it anything, but try to, just use a name that maybe goes with your project. In my particular case, I'm going to call it GDG Community App, for example, something like that. It has to be unique, but within your project, you can, within your environment, you can have multiple projects. This one, within your project, you need to make sure that you have that unique. After you put the name of your project, you hit continue. Then step number 2 tells you whether you want to set up analytics on your project. We say we don't need analytics, but you can enable it later. But analytics at least gives you to, let's say if you're going to go to production, it gives you A/B testing. It gives you like crash-free users. It gives you segmentation. It gives you a bunch of things. But say that you don't need Google Analytics. You just take this off, and then immediately you click create project. Once you click on, see, it's only 2 steps. Then when you click create project, it's going to spin for a little bit. It's going to show you this. I hope that everybody's following along, because again, I'm giving you here like, the inside scoop, maybe stuff that even Danny didn't know when he was at Google. So I'm giving you here like really secrets, like why aren't people using more Firebase and creating their projects? Well, I'll show you exactly how. So it starts spinning a little bit for you, and then you will get this, this interface that tells you that your project has been created. And then after your project has been created, then you click continue. So I don't want to create another project. That's why I'm going to leave it up to here. But after you create your project, you end up with something like this. Then after your project gets created, then it takes you right away. When you hit continue, it takes you to an interface that looks pretty much like this. So here, this is now the Firebase console. So in the Firebase console is where you manage all the resources controlled by this project. Firebase gives you authentication for free. You can go and create like authentication, like set up third-party providers for your application. You want to log in with Google, Facebook, Twitter, Microsoft. You don't have to pay a dime, and you can just connect your applications that can connect to all of those third-party providers. You have Firebase, Firestore database, which is the NoSQL document-based database that you can just manage in here completely for free, up to 1 GB of space, completely free. You also have the real-time database, which is the second level of, it's also a type of NoSQL database, but Google is kind of promoting more the Firestore database. It's not like it's deprecating one over the other, but each one has like great benefits. This is the one that we're going to be doing today. I'm going to get that in a minute. Just wanted to show you all the other things that you can do in Firebase. Well, you have storage. You also have Firebase storage, which some of you may know It's all stored in the cloud. It's kind of like blobs of data. You get like a cloud storage up to a certain amount, and you can store here images, videos, resources that you can consume in your applications, completely free. Hosting, then you can actually host your own website. For example, myself, I have a bunch of websites already hosted in Firebase without paying anything. And this is again one of the great things that you have, because it gives you SSL, it gives you the free space, it gives you a custom domain, all in here without paying a cent. And why do I say it without paying? Because you can see it right there in the lower right corner. It says Spark, no cost, $0 a month, right there. Like, you don't pay anything unless you want to upgrade. Let's say you want to go to the next level. I'm going to click here in the lower right corner, in the lower left corner here. This is the one where you're in the Spark plan, no cost, $0 a month. And then you get a bunch of things for free. If you want to go to the next tier where you get cloud functions, you get other things, then you pay as you go. Still in the pay as you go. You don't pay if you don't exceed certain limits. So I recommend people start on the Spark plan, build your application. Let's say now, if it exceeds like 2 million executions a month, then you go and start paying. But if you don't need that, if you have small applications, you want to build your portfolio, you can use the Spark plan. So I suggest everybody go on the Spark plan. So now that we are in the Firebase, I've already walked you through the interface, how to do it. You see, I didn't put any credit cards anywhere, and I already have a project. So now, how do we leverage Firebase and the great capabilities that it has? In the Code Lab, if you continue down this path, you see that in step number 4, I showed you exactly where you see that you're not paying. So now I just wanted to say congratulations. If you followed along, you already have a Firebase project that you can use in your applications for free. You're welcome. Okay, so that was step number 4. So let's go to step number 5, which is now how to leverage now Firebase Cloud Firestore. Like I was mentioning earlier, some of you come from like SQL Server, MySQL, Postgres. Well, Cloud Firestore is a NoSQL flexible cloud database to store and sync your data. Firebase gives you a limit of space that it can give you, like 1 gigabyte. And then if you exceed 1 gigabyte, you only pay like 18 cents for the next gigabyte. So imagine if you exceed that, then you only paid 18 cents a month. That's even less than a cup of coffee. So you see, that's what I love about Cloud Firestore. And then the great thing about it is that it's schemaless. So it follows the NoSQL approach, which is like documents and collections, look like JSON looking type of structures. And you will see that how I explain it and how we leverage that. So like I mentioned, Firebase is a NoSQL database. So forget about tables and relationships and rows and all of that. Here, you're actually dealing with collections and documents. A collection is nothing more than a group of documents. And a document is nothing more than a key value pair of information that you store in Firebase. So see here, I explained how kind of like the hierarchy gets created. So whenever you create like your structure, like your database structure, you start from a collection. So then inside of a collection, you add documents. Documents cannot have other documents, but a document can have another collection. And then a collection can have a document, and so on and so forth until you build your whole hierarchy. So now let's start now creating our first Firestore database in Cloud Firestore. So let me show you. So we're going to come over here and we're going to go back to Firestore database. So here we are in Firestore. You click on the left-hand side where it says Firestore database. Click there. In my particular case, I've already created a database. So if you see in the Code Lab, if you follow along, you're gonna get a button. If you click on the Firestore database, you're gonna have a button that says Create Database. So you're gonna click there where it says Create Database. So actually, you know what? Let me do it with you so you guys can see it. So I'm even gonna create another project. I was not gonna do it, but hey, I'm gonna hook you guys up. So let me go back again to the project, to the initial overview in Firebase, and I'm gonna create the project. So I'm gonna call it, GDG Dallas project, like that. I'm going to say no Google Analytics and create the project. So you see, I can create multiple projects within my Firebase repository, pretty much. You can use your Google account. You can use multiple Google accounts and manage multiple projects. And you can have infinite number of projects, because if you then exceed the limit on one, just create another email account and then you can manage that like that. Don't tell Google I told you that. So anyway, so see, it's already provisioning, your project. It takes a little bit because it's creating those resources, like creating even containers in Google Cloud, but of course limited. And they use maybe some of those preemptive containers that only they get used when your application is running. But then other than that, then they just decommission it. But don't think that your application is going to stop running or something like that. But that is the great thing about Firebase and the Google Cloud, because it has so many offerings. It has so many cool things that you can leverage, and most of them is free, because people, they always think like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get charged by that. But at least Firebase, within the free tier, you could do a lot of things, and that is exactly what we're going to be doing right now. So you see, it takes a little bit, for creating those resources, but at least I just wanted to give folks a chance in the chat if you want to drop a question about what we've created so far. Any questions from the audience? I think it just took a little bit, but anyway, I'm gonna just come back over. So any questions from anybody here? Great. So if not, again, I hope that you have created your Firebase project. Now, if you follow along again on the CodeLab, you will create your first database. So if you see there, it's going to prompt you to create a database. Like a database is kind of like just a repository that is going to hold your collection. Remember, the collection is the topmost element that you can create on a database. If you come from SQL, then you create a table. In this particular case, is a collection. So that is what we're going to be doing. So if you see here, it's going to tell you, if you click on, creating a database, you create by saying, I'm going to create it in test mode. So then after you doing that, then you click next. Then you you select which location you want this database to be provisioned in the Google Cloud. Maybe you can even find the region that is closer to you, but you can leave the defaults for now. So you just leave the defaults on where the database gets created. In this case, the default is US Central. And then after that, you click enable. And then after that, it gets created. It takes a little bit, like it spins also a little bit, and then it creates you, it provisions the Cloud Firestore for you. And then after that, when it finishes, then you land, and I'm already now on step 6. Step number 6, then it shows you the interface where we are right now. So it's already created the Cloud Firestore repository. Now you're ready to add collections and documents to your database. So let me show you how to do that. Let's go back now to Firebase, and let's all go to Firestore database on the left-hand side. So if I click Firestore database on the left-hand side, you see here the same interface. This is Cloud Firestore, and this is where you create your database, or the data that you're going to populate on your database. So the first thing that you start with is a collection. So you see there's a button here that says Start Collection. So you click there, and it asks you for a collection. So collection has, like, you have to give it a name to the collection. In our case, let's call it, you can call it anything you want, but remember, a collection is nothing more than a list of documents. And let's say in this case, my application is going to contain like a team. Let's say like I'm going to be creating an application for the GDG community. So I need a collection to hold the information about the team. So I create a collection called team. So you just name it like that. You click next. And then the first thing that it asks you is, okay, so this collection, can I just be floating in Cloud Firestore? You need to add at least one document. A document is just nothing more than a group of key value pairs that represent your data. So think about like a map or a dictionary that contains like a key, which is the name of your property, and the value, which is your value, the value that your document is going to carry. Each field in a document can have multiple types. You can have a string, you can have numbers, booleans, whatever. But every document needs to be identified with a unique ID. If you come from the RDBMS type of scenario, then you think of the primary key for a particular row. So a table is the collection, a row is the document. This ID then is like the primary key in your row. So Raul Flores says, did we start the create database in production or test mode? Yes, go with test mode. Yes. So if you follow along exactly. So in step number 5, yes, please say test mode. Like it's the default right there. And thank you for the question. Click on test mode, then you hit next. After you do next, then it's going to tell you which is the location of where is going to provision that database in the Google Cloud. You can leave it the default. Raul, you can leave it as the default, which is okay. Then when you hit enable, it just spins a little bit, and then it creates that interface where I was right now. Does that sound cool? Perfect. So I hope everybody is following along. If not, you can again continue this on your own, but at least I want to show you, you can take advantage of me being here because you can ask any questions. So now we are here after you've provisioned the Cloud Firestore database. Now we're here. I'm even going to start it again so that you guys can catch up. So again, once you are in Cloud Firestore, make sure to click on the left-hand side where it says Firestore database, and then you are in the repository where you can create your database. Again, the rootmost element has to be a collection. So you click in this button where it says Start Collection. I'm going to click there again. You give your collection a name, like the root collection. So I'm going to give it team. Think about this like a team table, for example. So I hit next. And then any collection, no collection can be empty. You have to have at least one document. That's why they're forcing you to add one document. So I'm going to click here where it says auto ID. You can even add your own ID here, but it's more recommended to use an auto ID. So that is very unique, and then you can have something to identify your documents with. But you can actually create your own document IDs, but it's better to leverage what the system gives you, which is a little more robust. So you can just click here where it says auto ID, and then you get a randomly generated ID, which is that primary key pretty much. Then all you do, remember, we're creating a document inside a collection. So a document is nothing more than a group of key value pairs that represent your data. That's how you package your data. So let's say a document can have like a name, and if we follow along again in the tutorial, I'm showing you what you can build. For example, you can add like a name, a photo, title. You can add anything. You can follow along in this particular case. We're going to skip a few things here, but at least I want you to at least pay attention to what I'm doing right now. So let's say I could add name, and then I can make it type string. I'm going to say Roman Jaquez. How do you add other fields to your document? Anam says, do I need at least 3 documents like in the tutorial? 3 fields, you mean? So yeah, you can have the tutorial, you can follow it exactly the way that the tutorial is, but you don't have to have a minimum of 3. You can have many. As long as the document does not exceed 1 megabyte in size, you can add as many fields as you want. That is a very good question. So Nam asked, do I need at least 3 documents or 3 fields? Remember, this is a field, but a collection can have multiple documents. As long as each document does not exceed 1 megabyte, you can add as many documents as you want. Collections also have a limit on the amount of documents. If you don't exceed, for example, like 1,000 documents, I think there's a specific limit on that, but you can just be mindful on how you package your data pretty much. So let's continue adding more fields to the document. I can say, for example, like, photo URL, and then also I can make it a string. You can add anything in here, like a URL or whatever. You can add, for example, like age, and that could be like a number. You see, and then you find like the specific type. You can find like a number, and then you put like a number in here. So you see, we're building a document with fields in it. Imagine as if we were doing a table, adding a row to the table, and then filling out the columns in the table, in that particular table. Then the columns are, in this case, the fields, and then the row you populate it with values, and that's exactly what we're doing. So now if I hit save, for example, I'm just going to try this example so you can see it. If you save it, you will see something like this. So you will have something called team, which is the collection. Then you have a document, which is identified with that particular ID. And then here on the on the right hand side, you see the fields that compose that document. So that's how you build your structure: collections, documents, and then a document can have a collection can have documents, and so on and so forth, until you build your whole hierarchy like that. So this is it pretty much. Like building that, now I can add a document, I can add like another document, make sure that then every document within the collection has the same type of fields. Otherwise, then your application won't know what is it that is pulling. Make sure that then you have like the same fields applied to every document within that collection. Make sure you do like photo URL, you know, you type it like that, you type age, then you put like a number, and then you put something like this. You see, you can add as many documents, and they keep getting added until you build your hierarchy. Does anybody have any questions on the chat? As far as, again, building a structure, a database in Firebase for free. I can just continue adding documents until I hit my 1 GB limit, and Google is not going to charge me. I guarantee it. Because again, like I said, I've built dozens of apps. All my data is here. And again, I haven't seen the bill. Otherwise, maybe I have to take a look at the mailbox and see if there's something from Google there. But anyway, you can have up to 1 GB of space. Then they charge you 18 cents after that for the next gigabyte. $18, 80 cents a month for the next gigabyte. So no questions. Okay, I see. What would be an example of a case of having a collection inside a document? Thank you very much. Mario Kirvin asks for that. Let me show you how to do that. This is the document in here. Like you have a document, and then you want to add a collection. Very simple. Let's say you have a collection of, let's say, accounts, for example, under your document. So I'm going to click here, Start Collection. You have to be in the document. You click here on Start Collection. A collection also has a name, so I'm going to call it Accounts. When you hit Next, the same thing when you created the collection at the beginning. You need to have at least one document. So you can follow the same hierarchy. Remember, collection, document, then a document has a collection, collections have documents, etc. So I'm going to add, for example, like this is a user that has multiple social media accounts, for example. So every document has an ID. And then let's say I'm going to have it social name. And then this is, for example, Twitter. And then another field will be called like link. And then the link will be, you know, twitter.com/dearcoders, for example, like my handle. And then if I hit save, now you see the hierarchy. Now you have, from the beginning, you have a team collection, one document, and then the document has a collection called accounts. Then accounts have a document with those values inside. So that's how you build your hierarchy, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. That's how you build structure. And then you continue on like that. A document has a collection. The collection has documents, documents collection, and so on and so forth. So any questions, any other questions around Firebase, Cloud Firestore? You see how simple it was? Nested folders, that's correct. You could do nested folders. A folder has another document. The document, you know, you can add a folder, so on and so forth. You can look at it like that because you can navigate. It looks kind of like a folder type of navigation. You see, like this document has a collection, so on and so forth. You see how easy it was? That's it. You can build your databases. You can build your NoSQL databases using this intuitive interface, and then you can build very robust applications. You haven't seen the huge power that this has. You will see it right now. Now we're going to hit Flutter, and we're going to hit from Flutter, we're going to hit our Firebase databases, and you're going to see how we're going to build that. So is everybody ready to now get into Flutter, how to connect our Flutter application to our Firebase NoSQL Firestore database? A thumbs up would do, or just a +1 or anything. I'll take, again, your silence as a yes. I hope that you guys are ready. Now let's continue. So that was a brief overview of Cloud Firestore. I hope you guys created your project. Now you can use that project to even create other databases, other projects. You can come back again to the root of your, of your Firebase console, add another project, and then you can hook it up to another application. You can do all of that. Now let's start with Flutter. So that is now what we're going to be doing now. So let's skip ahead to, we already set up the database, but we're not going to do this particular case. Indeed, you can continue following along on this code lab, but I'm going to give you a shortcut so that now you can maximize the knowledge that you got in Cloud Firestore now with Flutter. So let's proceed. So let's go right here to step number 7, where I'm going to be showing you how you can connect your Firebase project, your Flutter application to the Firebase project. So if you go to DartPad, I'm in step number 7. You guys can take a look at it on your own. So the way that you can connect your Flutter application to Firebase is by creating an app in Firebase. The way that you do it, go back to Firebase. I'm going to close out of here. And then I'm going to go back to my projects. The way that you connect Flutter to Firebase is kind of like even in other technologies like SQL Server. You can connect it with a connection string. In this case, it's a configuration object that you use to connect Flutter to Firebase. Let me show you how to do that. So back here in Firebase, you're going to create an app. And this is how you connect Firebase to your particular app. You can create a web app, an Android app, an iOS app, a desktop app, a Unity app. You can do anything. In this case, we're going to be building a web app. So follow along with me. You can even see in step number 7 how I do that. If you want to do it on your own, in step number 7, I show you how you build a web app. So you're going to be building a web app. It's very simple steps. Go back to Firebase. Here at the root in your project, there is a button that says Add App. You're going to click here where it says Add App. And then here you get like a couple of icons. You get like the iOS icon, and then you get like an Android icon. Let me zoom in so that you can see it better. So you get like an iOS icon, you get an Android icon, and this one looks like a web. So you're going to click there where it says Web. When you click on Web, it's going to give you a little wizard where you say add Firebase to your web app. So you're going to give it a name. You could call it anything. I'm going to call it GDG Dallas Web App, for example, just like that. Leave this off because we're not going to need any hosting. But what this does, it gives you the connection string that you need to connect from Flutter to this application. So you can just click it, make it like that. You can call it GDG Dallas, whatever you want. And then you hit this button that says register app. That's it. 2 simple steps. You add your app, the name of like a nickname for your app. In this case, it's going to be a web app. You click register app, right? Just spins for a little bit. And then it gives you here what it says like the Firebase SDK. The SDK then is that connection or that set of utilities that you then would need to install. In our particular case, we don't have to install anything because this is a web app. You only have to copy this configuration right here into DartPad. If you're building a web app like in Visual Studio Code, then you would have to add it to like the script tag of your HTML or whatever. But in this particular case, you only need this little chunk of code that we're going to be grabbing later. All we need at this point is just register the app like I did. And then in step number 2, it shows you this configuration that you need back in Flutter. After that, you don't need anything else. All you have to do is just click where it says continue to console. So I'm going to click there where it says continue to console. That's all I need. Now, how do you get back to that configuration? Because we're going to need it in Flutter. The way that you do it, here at the top of the project, there is this button that says, it gives you like all the apps that you have created. Here is the app that I created, which is called GDG Dallas Web App. And then you can click here on this little cog icon. If you click there, it takes you to the project settings, to your web app project settings. Make sure that you're in the general tab here at the top. And then if you scroll down, if you have like a bunch of information that you don't need to be concerned about at the moment, just make sure that you have the support email selected. Let's say if you use your Gmail account, one Gmail account to create this Firebase project, just make sure that you select the email, like here, the support email. Make sure that in this dropdown, you have the name of the email that you created this project with. Make sure that that is selected. And then if you scroll right down, you will see this section right here where it says like your apps, like all the apps that I have set up. In our case, we have the web app called GDG Dallas Web App. And there it is. This is the chunk of code that you're going to need to bring to Flutter so that then we can connect it. Now we are ready to go back to Flutter, and now we can do it. So now, yes, for real, we're going to be doing Flutter. So yes, now I know I've been keeping you long enough from Flutter, but we needed to do this because I needed to hook you up with the data that we're going to be consuming in Flutter. So now I'll say, are you ready? Yes, so let's go. So perfect. So that's it. So you needed to create an app. Now we're going back to DartPad. So let me just move this over. And here we are back in DartPad. If you guys are following along, we're going to be going again to step number 8. So after you set up the web app, which is in step number 7, if you went through this, now you're all set. You should be all good. We're going to copy this in a minute. But now let's go to step 8, where we're going to be doing the initial setup. I'm going to be helping you along if you guys fall behind, but let's try to stay focused on the task at hand. So if you come now right from scratch, Flutter, again, Flutter is a framework that allows you to build natively compiled applications using one single code base in Dart. Dart is the language, Flutter is the framework. Let's start. Let's go to DartPad, and then I will invite everybody to come into DartPad and delete everything because we're going to be starting from scratch. So I'm going to be selecting everything, like do Control A, or you can just drag it like this. Just get rid of everything like that. We're going to be starting from scratch. Believe me, I'm going to start from here, and then I'll take you from 0 to hero at the end of the session. Let's continue. So completely delete everything from DartPad because we don't need it. We're going to be starting from scratch. Let's go back to our code lab. And the first thing that you need to do in DartPad is import the packages that you need to do, that you need to leverage in order to pull the Flutter framework. So in step number 8, I give you 4 lines of code that you're going to copy. I'm going to be moving. Actually, let me just split it like this so you guys can see it better. I'm going to just move this over to the right, to this side. I think you guys can see there. And I'm going to move my DartPad on the left so you guys can see it better. So perfect. So we're going to do it like this, and then you guys can see it. So please copy the 4 lines of code which import the required packages for building your Flutter application. So I'm going to copy that, paste it in there. I'm going to just zoom out a little. Don't mind those warnings because we're going to get there in a minute. So we need the material package. We're going to need the Google Fonts because you can bring Google Fonts, and the Firebase Core and Cloud Firestore packages to connect to Firebase. Now, the next thing that I'm going to ask you to do is create a void main method. Just like in Java, C# or any of those, the main application has a main method. So the main method in Flutter is the most important method because it bootstraps your application. It bootstraps your application. So you need to have a main method in your main application file. So make sure that you've copied this 4 lines of code and the main method, which will bootstrap our application. Now let's continue right down the line, which I will be assisting if you guys are falling behind. If you fall behind anyway, also at the end of this code lab, there is the whole code. Step number 21, that's all the code if you fall behind, for example. Let's go back again, where I'm going to be adding now this chunk of code that actually provides the connection from Flutter to Firebase. So let's do that. Inside of the main method, you're going to be adding this line of code right here that says widgets Flutter binding. Let me type it for you, and then I can drop it in the chat. So the widgets Flutter binding ensure initialize. It has a little bit of a IntelliSense. I'm gonna be dropping this in the chat. If you guys want it, you can just grab it from there. But what this ensures is that the Flutter framework has loaded everything before you can start loading something like Firebase. So you need that first line, widgets Flutter binding ensure initialize, kind of like initializing the system. Then inside of this method, right underneath it, you need to add something that will, like a chunk of code that will connect to the Firebase connection. It's kind of like the connection string. So the way that you do it is creating an await. You say await Firebase dot initialize app. And I'm going to be dropping this just right here so that you guys can leverage this code. And inside of this Firebase initialize app, which is the first thing that you need to do to connect to Firebase, to initialize it, kind of like a connection string, like I mentioned, you have to give it an options. So you give it an options object that contains what? Remember what we left back in Firebase Cloud Firestore? We left like that configuration. You need that configuration, bring it over to Flutter. So let me just do this and type it for you. You do Firebase options. And you can just leave it like this. I'm going to drop this in the chat also if you guys want to copy it. So this is just what you need to then load the connection string that is needed to connect to Firebase, to Firestore. So let me just show you where it is again. There it is. You go back again to the Firebase project. Let me just take you there also. If I'm here, for example, in my Firebase, remember you go to your project overview. You go to your web app, like this is my web app. In this case, I'm using this one, so I'm going to continue using this one. And then in the project settings, the general tab, you scroll all the way down, and then you copy all of these lines right here inside of the Firebase configuration. It's kind of like the connection string, like I mentioned. So you copy. Now let's go back to DartPad. You just drop those lines right in there inside of the options, like I showed you. So this is now connecting to Firebase, and we are ready to start pulling data. Now, if you continue on the Codelab, now let me just shrink this because we're going to be continuing along on the Codelab. You need to make this method async. What is this? What does this mean? Async and await in Flutter. Like this because connecting to Firebase is actually an asynchronous call. So you need to kind of make sure that the system waits a little bit until it connects, then it bootstraps your Flutter application. So you need to decorate the main method with the keyword async, and then the Firebase initialization needs to be await. So you need to await on that. So I hope you guys did that. I gave you the pieces of code that you needed, but then you have to bring your own connection, and then you bring it in there, you copy and you paste it. That now with this is already now hooked up to Firebase. Of course, now we need to call things and pull. So now after you do this, we're going to skip ahead because I'm going to let you do this on your own if you want to do it. But for the sake of this tutorial and this session, I want you to skip all the way to here, I want you to go to step number 14. Step number 14 is this page that we're going to be building, which is going to be connecting to Firestore in real time. So we're going to be creating a widget that will connect to the real-time capabilities of Firebase Cloud Firestore. The cool thing about Flutter in Firebase Cloud Firestore, you saw earlier how I created one collection and then I added data. Well, Firebase, if you don't want to create it ahead of time, you don't need to. If you invoke it for the first time, it creates it on the fly. If the document doesn't exist, it creates it on the fly. If the collection doesn't exist, it creates it on the fly. That's how the Firebase model, the Firestore model works. Like it makes it like on the fly for you if it doesn't exist. So it doesn't like blow up on you. Like, oh, if the collection doesn't exist, it doesn't tell you it doesn't exist. It just creates it for you. But if it exists, it uses it. So now let's all skip to step 14, which is where I'm going to be showing you how to build this widget right here, which we're going to be connecting to Firebase in real time. So now let's proceed. So I hope that you guys did this connection. You can even use mine because I'm gonna let you even like copy paste all of this code in here. You can even copy it. That's okay. you can connect to my database. So you can start from that point. So now let's start. You're going to follow along. We're going to be creating the application, this page that will load like our Firebase. It's going to connect to our Firebase. So follow along on step number 14. But first, follow with me with what I'm going to be doing the first thing. First of all, so under this connection right here, under the Firebase connection, you're gonna type run app. What does run app mean? Run app means is the first method in the framework that you're going to be creating in your Flutter application to load the first widget. Everything in Flutter is a widget, even the application. So you're going to need the first widget to be loaded. So inside of run app, you're going to be adding the first widget that is going to be loading. So you need to have a method called run app. Then you're going to type, let me zoom in a little bit. Then you're going to type material app. Material app is the first widget. It's kind of like the root widget in your widget hierarchy. Whenever you're building your Flutter application, you need to have the main method, then you have the run app, and then the run app is going to load the first widget to your widget tree. In this case, is the material app widget. The material app widget then has a couple of properties that you need to set in order to launch it to the user and show something to the user. So the way that you do it is you create a home. Home is going to be the first widget that you're going to be adding to the screen. Like the first thing that the user sees is like the home widget pretty much. In our case, we're going to be creating a custom widget for this application. And let's call it just like that, like GDG community support, for example, just like that. Creating widgets in Flutter, you create a class that extends either stateful or stateless. The difference is stateful widgets are widgets that maintain the state. And let's say you want to persist some state within in between widget rebuilds, or stateless, which don't maintain any state and they just get painted on the screen. So I'm going to be copying this code in the chat if anybody wants to grab it. Now here we've created, again, we've imported everything. We are connecting to Firebase and we've loaded the root widget to our application. If you see this red line in here, that means we haven't created that widget, which is what we're going to be doing right now. So we're going to be creating our first widget and we're going to be calling it community support. I just pasted it in the chat. You can just grab it from there. But if you now are on your step number 14, now you can continue from this point below, which we're going to be building. So let's start. So anywhere within your DartPad class, you can just find a spot underneath it. And now let's create that custom widget. So the first thing that you do to create a custom widget in Flutter, you create a class. You can name it anything. In our particular case, we're going to call it GDG community support. You can call it anything, but you need to make sure that it extends either stateless or stateful widget. Remember the difference is if you're going to be persisting state, like you're going to be saving stuff that you want to see the user, over time, like when the widget rebuilds, if you want to see it, or you just want to paint something on the screen. In this case, we just want to paint something on the screen. Now, when you build a widget for the first time, you need to override, when you're creating a custom widget, you need to give it a specific method, which is run by the framework to paint something on the screen. It's called the build method. So you're going to be, I'm going to be copying this also in the chat if you guys want to grab it, if you just want to do it. That's how you create a custom widget. So you need to have a class that extends stateless widget, for example. Now, inside of your custom widget, you have to override a specific method called the build method. The build method that returns a widget, it's called build, and then you give it something called the build context. So you give it a context, and a context in widget is nothing more than a handle that is given by the framework to your custom widget so that you can find the location of the widget in the widget tree. You can also use this context to pull services, to navigate the hierarchy of widgets and find like inherited widgets, like inherited services, inherit components, and all of that. So you need to use that, you need to inject that context into your build method so that then your widget can function, right? Now inside of your build method is where you build your whole structure. In our particular case, we're returning other widgets. So you build your widget as a hierarchy. So let's do now something called a scaffold. So you're going to be doing return scaffold. A scaffold is one of those widgets that give you like the capabilities for creating like page widgets. It gives you like a header, like a bottom bar. It gives you like a navigation. It gives you a floating button. It gives you again like the scaffold of like the initial structure of you creating pages and widgets. So even with this, the way that I have it right now, I already have like something really basic that I can just do in my application. So it's pretty cool. That's what I love about this, that even with this, I create like a custom widget already. So now let's take this for a spin and let me show you now how you can continue on that. If you're on step 14, you can see how I can add a bunch of stuff in there, but I want you to follow along because I wanted you to understand how I build all these things. Now, the next thing that I'm gonna do, so now we can see stuff on the screen, is to that scaffold, we're gonna add a background color. So that is how you build your widgets. You add properties, you set like configuration to your widget, and then you start seeing things on the screen. Tono Noguera says, are things like stateless widgets and build context part of the standard library, or is it something we're importing? Very good question. Are part of the library, you're not importing everything. Well, if you're importing the material, you're importing the material library. But the scaffold is part of the material library, so you are importing the scaffold. The build widget and stateful and stateless widgets are part of the framework because that is how you build custom widgets in Flutter. For example, like you can import like a button, you can import an image, you can import a list, but if you want to create your own stuff, you have to use stateful and stateless, and that is given to you by the framework by default. So thank you very much for your question. So let's continue. Inside of the scaffold, I'm gonna add like a background color. So it's very simple. You can just type like background color, and then you give it like a color. You say like colors.white. So something like that. I'm gonna give you this. You can copy paste it inside of the build method. So this is just a scaffold that has a background color. Simple as that. Now, if you want to start seeing something on the screen with the stuff that we have, you can just hit the run button right up here. And then you should be able to see just a blank screen. That's it. Even with this, you've gotten like really far. Now you have something that you can see, even a blank screen, something like that. So very cool. So if you see right now, it's a blank screen. That's all you see. But at least that's a widget. It's a page that represents just that page, a widget, like the page widget. You see this little like sash like called debug. You can hide that by adding a property here in the material app called debug show checked mode banner. I know it's a handful. I'm gonna paste it right now in the chat, but that is like a really long property. It's called debug show checked mode banner. It's like really long. And then if you just say false on that, it just goes away. Let me just copy that property that you can add to the material app. And then all it does, it just hides that sash. And then it doesn't show that your application is in debug mode because you want to kind of, make it look more legit. So after you do that property, then the debug, that goes away. That's it. So you see, now you continue building stuff within your build method. You see, we added the scaffold. Now we go and add other things. For example, let's add an app bar. An app bar is just nothing more than like a header inside of your scaffold. So the way that you do it is inside of the scaffold, you add those properties. So you're gonna say app bar, and then that is the property, and then you assign a widget called app bar. So the app bar gives you like that header up top. I'm gonna copy paste this code. If you feel adventurous, you can type it exactly the way that is in the tutorial, but I'm gonna type it and I'm gonna drop it in the chat if you want to grab it. So an app bar has a background color. You can give it a background color, colors.transparent, because I don't want to have like any other colors up there. You give it an elevation, like 0 means no shadows. And then you provide like a theme. Like I want like an icon theme. I want all my icons up there to have a color. So you can give it like an icon theme, and you say like const icon theme data. That is how you feed like the icon theme to your app bar up there. And then you want to say that all the icons are like gray. So you can say colors.gray. That is like in the icon theme data out there. Then last but not least, you want to show something. So the app bar has a property called title. So a title, you might assume, okay, maybe like a text, but because everything in Flutter is a widget, you can add anything up there. What we're going to be doing is adding like an image up there, which I'm going to be dropping in the chat so you guys can see it. So you can say image.network, and image.network is just another widget. It's just another widget that you can add so that you can add like an image from the internet. And I'm going to be grabbing that. It's actually in the code, but I'm just going to be providing you this code already so that you don't have to copy paste it. But you can grab any image of the internet and you can just grab it in there. So let me show you this this code so that you can just grab it. So this is the app bar icon. This is just like any image that you can grab from the internet and you can just load it in here. Very simple. So let me just copy this, give it to you in the code. So we're here creating the app bar. So let me just drop it here. So you can just add any images. You can just give the image right there, of course, surrounded by single quotes. And then you give to that image, you give it like a width and a height because you want to give it some dimension. So you give it like a width, and then you say like 40 pixels, height 40 pixels, and now you want it to constrain the height of that. So you say box fit dot contain. So I'm gonna copy this whole app bar so that you guys can use it. Let me just do image.network, and then you have that. Let me just move this down here. Yeah, you can do that there, and then I'm just going to add the comma right there. I just want to, everything to fit in here. That's why I wanted to make sure that you guys have this like this, and then after the image, you have to close the.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, you have a question? You have to provide the fit. Now I'm going to provide this app bar here in the chat so that you guys can, dimensions are in pixels. That is correct. Obina asks, the dimensions are in pixels. Yes. The good thing about Flutter is that this device independence pixels, and then when you give it, it translates it depending on the type of, let's say the environment in which is running. If it's iOS, it takes care of like the retina display. If it's Android, it knows depending on the pixel ratio of the device, and then it does it accordingly. But you give it in pixels. That is correct. You can just copy that code in there and you give it in the app bar, and then if you run it, if you run this, now you will see like an app up here, like a little icon showing at the top of the app bar. And that's how you build your custom widget. So we've built the page, we've built like the icon of the app bar, and then you should see like the GDG icon. There you go. So that's how you build your widget. You build it little by little, all within the build method. Very cool. So now we want to build something cool. We want to build like, we want to add like more things like labels and stuff like that. So why don't we do that? Now inside of the scaffold, now that we've taken care, oh, no problem. You can ask any questions. Ismail, if you, don't worry if you interrupted, you can ask any questions. So Stacy asked, is basically the DP for Android? That is correct. Let's continue. So now inside of the scaffold, now we want to build the body of the widget, of this page. So the body is kind of like, this middle region in between. So I'm going to say body, and then everything in Flutter is a widget, even positional elements, even like the padding and stuff like that. All that is a widget. So I'm going to be adding a widget called padding. If you guys are following along, you can see that even padding, margin, center, align, all of that is widget. Think of that. Everything in Flutter is a widget, even like a padding. So now padding, you provide like the padding, you say padding, and then you provide the padding like as it's called edge insets. And then you can say like all, meaning like padding all around it, only, meaning like in specific coordinate. If I say all 40, I'm saying add me 40 pixels all around the body of the scaffold. So that's how you build it. And then inside of the padding, then now you can start things like now you can add other widgets. In this case, we're going to be adding a column widget. You see that I use the property called child. In Flutter, you have widgets that take a single child and widgets that take more than one child. you can add either a child or children. Padding is one of those widgets that take one single child. So in this case, I'm going to be adding a column. A column is yet another type of widget, which lays the widgets in a vertical fashion, up and down, like like stacked up like that vertically. And then a column is one of those widgets that take a children, meaning you can add multiple widgets in there. So I'm going to copy the body. I'm going to drop it in the chat if you guys want to follow along. You just copy that body, put it in at the top level of the scaffold, and then you start getting stuff. So now we're cooking. Now let's add stuff inside of the body so we can start seeing things. Another type of widget in Flutter is the text widget. A text widget is kind of like a label. So that is exactly what I have here in the in this particular scenario. In the column, I'm gonna be adding this like a text in there. So I'm gonna be saying const text, and then a text is just another type of widget. And then in the text, I'm gonna be adding just like the label. I'm gonna type like community meter. Let's say community meter, and then you see like a text is just a widget that takes just a string, and then you can add styles to that text. For those of you, because I remember I told you, let's skip ahead. You may have missed that property called utils main color. Let me copy it for you so that you can just have it in there so that it doesn't break for you, so that it doesn't blow up for you. So let me just grab that property for you because it's something that I just wanted to, get for you real quick. So let me just grab that property. So this is just this property called main color. It's just like a static color that we're going to be using. I'm going to go back to step 14 again. Like I said, you can follow along on your own. You can follow along with me. You can continue doing this. You can grab this property. You can just drop it here up top, which is going to represent like this, like a color that we're going to be using for our application globally. Even though this is bad practice, it's just for the sake of this tutorial. You can just grab like that constant value that is up there. So back in our column, because we're building all those columns. So you're going to be adding like a style inside of the text widget. And then for that text widget, you're just going to add a text style. So you say text style. For those of you coming from HTML, this is kind of like CSS. So you're adding like styles to your text widget. So you can say color, and then you add like the color that we have up there. You can either do colors, and then you find your own colors from the library, but we're going to be using that main color property that I defined up there. So you can just say main color. And then now all you do is provide like a font size up there. Actually, I need to set this as a constant still. Sorry about that. So I can do constant color, and then I can use it so that you can just see it like this. So let me just drop it again. So constants, again, for those of you who know like any other programming languages, constant is a value that is just set immediately, a compilation time is already set. So you don't, a runtime, it never changes. So it stays like that throughout the whole execution of your project. Same thing happens here in Flutter. So you set like the main color of your text, and then you add like a font size, just like if you were doing CSS. We're going to be doing like a font size of 30. So it's going to be giving you like a label like that. I'm going to copy paste that text widget. I'm going to just copy another one right there. And I'm going to be adding another one, and I'm just going to call it like goal 300 messages, because what we're going to be building is something that we can click, save into Firestore, and then get it right back. So we're going to be using that, connecting to Firebase and do like a bunch of clicking in there. So I'm going to copy now the whole, my whole column so that you guys can follow along, if those of you who are following. I'm going to be grabbing like the whole, actually I have the, the column widget right there. I have the text, well, I'm sorry, this is the text widget right here. Oh, I need to provide, sorry, I need to close this appropriately. Make sure that you close your parentheses appropriately, because you need to be doing like this in a nested way. So the same thing with my text style, I need to close it right here appropriately. There we go. So now that I have this properly nested, and I can just do this and, like reformat my code so that it looks a little better. So now you see that this is where the column closes. So you can just, I'm going to grab this whole column, and drop it in the chat. If you guys are following along, you can just replace it. So now that I have my two text widgets in there, I have the color set, I can hit run, and then you will see now like two labels being shown at the top. So you see, you build it like that, little by little, you build your structure, and then things start showing for you here in DartPad. That's what I love about DartPad, that it lets you do like this type of prototyping. It's so cool. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit so you guys can see it. And then you see that the text is like not properly aligned. I want those widgets to be kind of like centered, right? Like in the column. You see there is a property that columns have that you can do like left aligning or center aligning or right aligning. It's called cross-axis alignment. So you can say cross-axis alignment, right? And then you do cross-axis alignment dot stretch. By saying stretch, I'm saying I want all the widgets in the column to kind of like stretch and occupy like the most of the width in the screen. So at least these guys will try to stretch themselves and try to like occupy most of the most of the real estate in the column. So if you hit run, you still see that, it will do like the, it kind of like looks like they were like stretched pretty much. Like it would probably take like the whole width. So now, and you will see like, I can change this font here to smaller because I hit it, like I made it 15. So let me just change that. There you go. So any questions in the chat as far as like, again, building your own widgets, building your hierarchies, how you add, like how you nest widgets within widgets, and how you build your structure in widget. Any questions from anyone in the chat? Great. Okay, so let's continue. So now that you see here, you see that now your widget, perfect, awesome. So let's continue. So you see that now I've made like my widgets, I've made the text widget, but in this case, you see that the widgets are still left aligned. So the text widget has a specific property called text align. So you can go in here in the widget and you can just say text align, and then you say text align dot center. Again, it's kind of like as if you were doing CSS and then you start like adding alignments on your divs or your labels, and then you do that, and then you see like you apply those properties, you apply it, you run in DartPad, and then you start seeing this coming together as you build your widgets little by little. That's what I love about Flutter, because it lets you do these incremental changes. You see that in other frameworks, you actually have to rebuild the whole thing before you can even see a small change like this. So I'm going to copy the column again with these updates. I'm going to drop it in the chat. You can copy paste the whole thing, and then you drop it and you see this. The great thing about Flutter is that you can paint every pixel on the screen. I can come up with anything in Flutter and I can still do it because it lets you, it uses underneath it, instead of tapping into the lower level components of every framework, it actually uses like a game engine, like a graphics engine to paint every pixel on the screen. That is why Flutter is so flexible and so performant, because it compiles right into native code, and then it paints every pixel on the screen using the Skia graphics engine. So it's really cool. So now that we've done this, let's go to the next step, step 15, where now we're going to be connecting now this application to Flutter, to Firebase, how we connect and how we pull data from it. So let me show you how to do that. So the way that you do it is now connecting using the libraries that we just imported up here. We imported the Firebase core, and then we ported Cloud Firestore. So if you followed along, now you already have the padding, you have those two labels, but now we want to connect to Firebase and pull stuff from it. So let's do it. I'm in step 15 right now. So how do you connect to Firebase and you pull real-time messages from there? How you pull like information from Firebase? The way that you do it is you use the Firebase instance. Let me show you how to do that. So here I explain how you actually connect using the libraries that are already provided. So you remember in Firestore, you have the concepts of collections and you have the concepts of documents. Firestore gives you the SDK that you can connect to Firestore, and what you get as a reference is for collections, you get a collection reference. And for documents, you get a document reference. It's kind of like a pointer to the collection so that you can query it, or you get a pointer to the document so that you can pull the key value pairs from it. So it's pretty cool. So let me show you how you do that. So if you see here, I show you exactly how you how it works. Let me just stretch it a little so you can see it. So this is the library, how you pull it from Flutter. So you have to say Firebase Firestore. You get the instance. So you get the instance of Firestore. Then you query the collection. In our case, we're calling it team. And then you get the snapshots. The snapshots gives you the reference, like a pointer to the collection. And then you get something called a stream. A stream is something that you can listen on, and then you can get the information in real time from Firebase. And then in this case, you can do it, like I said, you grab the instance of Firestore, you query the collection. Remember, we have collections in Firestore. Then you can access like a specific document, and then you pull something called snapshots. A snapshot in a document, like here, for example, you can see right there, a snapshot in the document is a pointer to a document, and then you get a stream. A stream is something that you can listen on. You can listen on a document. Any changes happen on the document, you get notified. In the case of the collection snapshots, you get you get notifications on any changes that happen on that collection. So that is what I love about Firebase and how you can connect to Firestore and leverage the real-time capabilities. When your users are adding stuff to the collection, you get notified, and Flutter immediately starts rebuilding, and then you see the values in real time showing up. So that's what I love about it. So now in step 15, I show you how now you can connect and you can read values in real time from Firebase. If you guys are following along, now let's go back to Flutter, and now let's create this widget that is here, which is called a stream builder. A stream builder widget is a widget that already gives you these capabilities so that you can connect to Firebase. It listens to the changes on your collection, and then it notifies you of every changes that happen, and then you can react on Flutter. Jeffrey says, how do you force sizes on a widget without it resizing when the viewport changes? Very good question. You can use, in the case of a widget, you can use media queries. For those of you familiar with HTML and like CSS3, you have the like something called like media queries and like flexible model CSS3. You have something called the Flexbox model. Also, you have it in Flutter. You have something called the media queries that you can read like the width of your screen, and then based on that, you can make your widgets based on the width of what of let's say the screen in which it is rendered. That way, you don't have to provide a fixed size. So I love those questions. You can definitely leverage that, like media queries, layout builders. Those are the type of widgets that you can use to leverage those capabilities, like Flexbox models and whatnot. Thank you very much for your question. So now I'm going to be adding that widget called the stream builder. So, and then we're going to wrap it inside this particular widget called an expanded widget. So right below my column, right here, you see the column. I'm going to be adding, actually, no, I'm sorry. It's inside of the column, but I want to make it as part of the, yes, right below the text widgets. So right below the text widgets, I'm going to be adding an expanded widget, and I'm going to zoom in a little. I'm going to say expanded. And then an expanded widget is a widget that occupies most of the real estate in, let's say, in this particular column. And that is, again, referring back to HTML, CSS, Flexbox model. It's kind of like a div with a flex of 1, meaning all the other widgets take up their space, but I will take the remaining space. So you say expanded, and then you add a child. A child, then remember, this is another one of those widgets that take a single child. And then inside of this child, you add a stream builder. And then, like the name implies, is a widget that when it reads from a stream, it builds. That's exactly what we're going to be doing. So the stream builder takes 2 parameters. Takes a stream. I'm going to be copying this in the chat so that you guys, if you don't want to type it, or again, if you want to type it, you can just read it from the off of here. You're going to say stream, and then you say immediately we're going to call Firebase. You remember up here when we did initialize? That's it. You're already taken care of. You already have access to Firebase. You can immediately start querying it. So you can do Firebase Firestore dot instance. Now this is the instance of Firestore dot collection. But now I'm not going to be referring to the collection that I created up there called team. No, I'm going to make one up. That is the cool thing about Firestore. You don't need to have something in there so that you can start using it. So I'm going to name it. I'm going to name it for you guys. I'm going to name it GDG Dallas Community. That's the cool thing about a Firestore. I don't need to have the collection up there. It will already create it if it doesn't exist. And it's just going to start adding documents or pulling stuff. And then out of the collection, you say snapshots. Snapshots, what it means, it says, bring me a reference of a collection, whether it exists or not, bring me a reference and start listening on it. If anybody drops a document inside of that widget, I am going to rebuild and I'm going to notify Flutter. So after I do this, the second parameter that the stream builder requires is something called a builder. A builder, that is the method that when the stream builder gets notified, it calls the builder, and inside of this method, I build my widget. So it takes two parameters. It takes a context. Remember the context that I told you every widget requires a context, so it's the same context. And a snapshot. The snapshot now is the reference to the collection that is in Firestore. So I'm gonna copy this code. I'm gonna drop it in the chat. You can just copy paste it right below the last text widget, because now we're going to be listening on stuff that is on Firebase. So that's what's cool about it. Now, if I continue down the road, down the tutorial, down the code lab, now you can start consuming the snapshot. The snapshot now is the reference of that collection that is up there. The snapshot also wraps like some metadata that you can query to check whether you have data or not from Firebase. The way that you do it, you say, if snapshot dot has data, see how convenient it is? If it has any data, then I want to know about it. Now I can do something. If it doesn't have any data, then I don't want to show anything. I'd rather show a blank screen or like a spinner indicator. So in this case, I'm going to say, okay, if I have data, I'm going to say, for example, return a text widget that says, I have data, for example, something like that. But if I don't have any data, I'm going to say return, size box. Size box means just bring me nothing. A size box is nothing more than a widget that represents like a blank space. So for those of you who still want to continue along, I'm going to copy this and I'm going to show it to you. I'm just going to paste it here. And then that's it. So now I'm going to run this. Let's see what happens. If I show anything, if I run it, it will probably say nothing, like it will be blank because there's no data to show up there. So if I start listening to a collection that doesn't exist, and then I query it and say that it has any data, so it should say no data. So in this particular case, it will be blank and it won't show anything. So in this case, you see nothing shows. If you copy pasted that, now you see that nothing gets shown. Now I want to actually start querying if there's anything in the collection instead of saying, oh, I don't have any data. The way that you query that collection, you do this. You say, you actually start pulling the values from the collection. So in this case, I say, remember, instead of getting that collection, you actually get something called a, you get it, of course, you get it out of the snapshot, but the snapshot is a collection reference. So it's like a reference to that collection. So you say here, you create a list of query document snapshots. That is actually a reference of every document that is inside of the collection. But if we don't have anything right now, you won't get anything yet. And then I'm going to save it in a reference called like messages. Then what I'm going to do is out of the snapshot, I am going to actually query those documents. So out of that collection, if it exists, I'm going to say snapshot dot data. Now I'm going to extract the data out of that kind of like an envelope. I'm going to extract the data as a query snapshot. Remember, query snapshot is like a reference to a collection, like a query snapshot. Then you kind of wrap that, you want to cast it into a, the query snapshot, and the query snapshot has something called docs. Docs then refers to every document that is inside of that collection. If I don't have anything, this will just show 0. Let's display it right now. Let's see what it shows. So if I say return text, and then I say messages dot length, let's say, what's the length of the documents that are up there. And then that's it. I'm just going to say to string, right? I'm going to copy paste this again so you guys can use it. So I'm just going to copy the whole expanded widget, so you can just copy if you want to. And I'm going to run it. So remember, there's nothing up there, no collection called GDG Dallas community that doesn't exist. And then if I run this again, see, it says now I have data. Why? Because now I'm saying, I have data. Now it says 0. Why does it say 0? I told you, even though there's no collection, it's going to return something, but it's going to create an empty collection, kind of like in memory. And then it's going to say you don't have any documents. Check this out. I am going to move this over here, and I am going to add something to that collection. So this is going to blow your minds a little bit. So I'm going to be going to Firestore database. I am going to collapse this. I am going to create a collection called GDG Dallas community. Keep looking at the 0. Keep looking at the 0 on the left-hand side. I'm going to be creating something called Dallas community. I'm going to hit next. And I am going to add just a fake document. I'm going to say, name, Luke, for example. And if I hit save, keep looking at number 0. If I hit save, what did you see right there? It changed to 1. What does this mean? Flutter is already connected to Firebase. Anything that I do in this collection, even if I delete the document, let me just delete it right now. Keep looking at that number 1 that is showing right here. I'm going to click delete document. Keep looking at it. Delete document. Start delete. Went back to 0. This is the power of Firebase and Flutter. And just this little bit of code that I did, it was pretty cool. Looks as mind-blowing. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I love about the real-time capabilities of Flutter and also Firebase. That is the thing. Now you can build, like, for example, here, check this out. Now out of these messages, I can actually pull the value out of those messages and display it in real time right here. Let me show you. Check this out. So I'm going to say like, var messages, like message. I can do this. Messages out of the single document. I can say messages, and then I pull like a single document out of that collection. For example, I can say, just give me the first document, and then pull the data out of the document. And what do I have in the document that I added here? For example, I'm going to add a document. I'm going to call it name and put Luke. And then I'm going to hit save. That is one document with a property called name and the value Luke. I'm going to say here, pull the value out of this as a map of string dynamic. That is kind of like the structure that you see there. It's kind of like a map. It's like a dictionary of key value pairs, which map to a map of string dynamic. Now I want to pull that value that is there. All I do is this. I can access it as a dictionary. I can say message. What is the name of the property on that dictionary? It's called name. That's it. So now I'm going to hit run one more time. And you see, out of the messages, because there's multiple documents, I pull the first document. I extract the data out of it, which is kind of like an envelope. And then I map it to a dictionary, which out of that dictionary, I'm going to pull a property called name. So you see, it says Luke. Now, instead of Luke, I'm going to come over here inside of my document. I'm going to hit edit. Now I'm going to call it Stacy. And then if I hit update, you see that the value just changed. And I just did it in real time. And here in my web browser, immediately received the value rebuilt right in front of your eyes. And then you saw the value coming in. So that you already have Flutter connected to Firebase. And now you can start even doing a bunch of other crazy stuff, pull values from Firebase, add more collections, add more. So now you're famous. This is recorded. So you guys are really famous now. Oh, Stacey, I misspelled your name. Sorry about that. So no, I'll fix your name. This is what's cool about it. I can just remove the E out of it, hit update, and there you go. I just fixed your name. So perfect. So now Jeffrey has a question. Is the Firebase index ordering guaranteed stable? Thank you. Amazing question. Index is not guaranteed. You have to enforce it yourself. And even the writes into Firebase is not guaranteed. The order is not guaranteed. The way that you can just like sort your values, make sure that you provide like some order to it. You can add like a timestamp, like a timestamp field. And then that's how you ensure, for example, a proper order. When a value gets inserted, like a document gets inserted into your collection, then it has a timestamp. That way you can sort it by the time in which it got entered, and then that way you can persist that. Perfect. Now that we've done this, I will ask everybody to do me a favor, and now let's engage in this activity that I prepared specifically for this event. Now, everybody, if you have DartPad open, let's all go to step number 21. What you're gonna do in step number 21, you're gonna grab the whole code that is in there, in this whole step, because what we're gonna do is now leverage the true capability of Flutter and Firebase. All of us are gonna be hitting Firebase at the same time. You're gonna click as fast as you can, and you're gonna be increasing like one widget that I created that I'm calling it the community meter. So I will ask everybody as a favor to go to step 21. You're gonna copy all the code that is in step number 21. You're gonna copy everything that is in step number 21. You're gonna come to DartPad. If you want, you can open another instance of DartPad if you want, but you can copy the whole step number 21. You're gonna delete everything and you're gonna paste step number 21 all in DartPad. So I will just give you a chance to copy all the code. And again, before we wrap up, I just wanted to say thank you so much for everybody for everybody who joined and who stuck around all the way at the end. I'm really pleased to again go through these interactive sessions where people follow along and they do this type of coding, because I like to go step by step, show you the power of Firebase and Flutter, so that you can immediately start leveraging these technologies without breaking the bank, completely free, build your apps, and then go out there and just be awesome in Flutter. So all of you guys, copy step number 21, paste it in DartPad, and hit run. So that's exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm even going to just like reload the whole thing again, and I'm just gonna copy paste it, and then you just hit run. What you will see if you hit run, for those of you who haven't done it yet, you will see the complete application, but then I will ask you to go to a particular area of the application, and then all of us are going to start hitting this application at the same time. So just wait a little bit. If you want, you can reload DartPad, copy step number 21, and then yes, just again, do this, delete everything, and then just paste the whole step 21 inside of DartPad. And Linus, let me know if you can see anybody else. Luke, anybody else can see if you copy the whole step number 21 into DartPad. Even a thumbs up would do. Anybody else? Perfect. So now this is what I will ask everybody to do. Click on the lower right corner of this widget. You're gonna click in that little like a comment type of like chat icon. You click in there, and now you're gonna be taken to this, what I'm calling like the community meter. I'm going to reload this page again. I already see people already clicking. So what I'm gonna be asking from people to do here is actually to click as much as you can on that button. This is now proving to you how multiple people at the same time can hit the same database and you see that Flutter is not even flinching. And there you go. Congratulations to everybody. That was the community meter. I didn't know that everybody was going to click so fast. I mean, I can do this again. Look, I can go back to the console. I can immediately clear the collection that is in there. And then I'm going to let you guys like do it again. Like, let's do it real quick again. So let me just show you right here. So I have it in this repository. Let me just show you real quick so you guys can see it. If I go in there again, you will see all of your messages being shown. This is the power of Firebase. Why is like so, it's taking the industry by storm. It allows to people to create like these amazing experiences. Here, when you go here to the community and you see like all the messages in there, that is what I love about that. So it gives you all that, the fact that it allows you to add like all those messages in there. It's amazing. So if you go again to like the database, you see all those values, you see all that like shown in there. So again, I just wanted to say congrats to you guys. Thank you so much. This is the power of Firebase and Flutter. Please go out there, create your own Firebase projects. I'm going to be dropping in the chat a couple of the links. If you, let's say, this is the first time that you've experienced Flutter, you can actually take a look at additional other workshops that I have from beginner, intermediate, advanced. Even the same workshop is there. You can follow along at your own pace and you can create your own applications. Also, I will drop in here some of my contacts, my Twitter handle, if you guys want to follow me. But yes, I'm going to be also in other GDG groups and other communities doing this same exact collab. If you want to have like a do-over on this one, please stay tuned with me. Follow me so that you can see where I'm going to be next. I'm going to be actually all over the place doing that. This is something that I even created with Flutter and Firebase. Let me just show you real quick as a last thing that I'm going to show you. I created this application under 2 hours, which is an application that is I call it the Flutter Festival Tracker. If you go to this address, you will see everywhere in the world where I will be hosting Flutter festivals. And then if you tap on it, you see like the event where I will be, and guess where I am actually right now. So there it is. We are right now at this event. I think I can see Luke. Let me just see if I can see Stacy in that map. Well, it may not be the precise location, but this application, I created it under 2 hours with Flutter and Firebase. And these are the kind of things that you can go out there and do. So I'm just gonna leave it there. I'm gonna say thank you. Thank you, Luke. Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, all the organizers of GDG Dallas. And I hope to see you on the next one. Thank you so much, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm gonna stop sharing now.
Thank you, Roman. That was amazing. I think it's really cool that in basically an hour and a half, you showed how to set up a Firebase, Firestore, and a Flutter app, and connect them together, and actually like get them talking, and showing like how it actually functions. And so I'm always impressed by that kind of stuff, because I know that under the hood there is so much going on about.
Well, definitely, yeah. We are pampered. Like they are actually, like why it made it so easy. I can't believe it. And again, the fact that it's free is even, it blows my mind. So yeah, this is pretty cool.
Yeah. And Ismail's asking for like the original link. So if you want to drop that in, I was going to scroll back and repaste it. The original beginning.
Yes, and that is the Colab. You can actually visit my portfolio, and then you can see other Colabs like from beginner, intermediate, advanced, and even the same Colab is available there. And you can follow me on Twitter. You can check me out, and you'll see other things that I will be doing. So yeah, thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I know it's getting a little late for some people, but I wanted to can you stick around for just a couple of questions, and we'll see if anybody has any.
Yeah, I see a question from Nam. How is the dog situation from Flutter? What do you do when you get stuck on a problem? So like the Flutter has an amazing environment community. I'm even all the time in Flutter in Stack Overflow answering Flutter questions. You can just drop your question in there and I'll be able to pick it up. But there's a vibrant community, great documentation. You can even explore the Flutter docs. They're pretty straightforward, great tutorials. So I invite you to take a look at flutter.dev, and you can have like a bunch of like cookbooks and tutorials and great documentation. Oh, I saw Stacy earlier. She had like her baby. So yeah, no, you go do that. You go be amazing, Stacy. So yeah. And Jeffrey says like, yeah, Flutter docs are pretty nice. They provide the videos. And yes, exactly. And of course, now even some of those videos and tutorials have like DartPad running on the side so that you can even test some of those things right there on the fly. So yeah, that's what I love about that. Any other questions, guys? Yes, so Tonya says, do the Firebase streams work like an observer? Wow, I was exactly going to say that. Streams work exactly like the observable. Like it uses kind of like reactive streams, like RxJS. So it's actually like that. You can unsubscribe, you can subscribe. But the great thing about the stream builder, the way that I showed you, and I'm glad that you brought that up, the stream builder frees up the resources after it consumes the stream builder. It's kind of like if the observable, you subscribe and you unsubscribe, the same thing the stream builder does. It connects to your stream, and after it's done, it unsubscribes automatically. So go ahead and use the stream builder whenever you're consuming streams. And the Snapchat plugin, Stacy, I can drop that plugin so that you can use it even in your. I'll drop it right there in the chat. So anybody wants to use the Snapchat, this Snapchat lens, I created it myself also. You see, that's another thing that I'm also a fan of, like 3D modeling, Snapchat, AR. I created this one. You have to download the Snap camera, download this lens, and then you can use it even in your own phone calls at work. So yeah, you can use that one. Completely free. You don't have to pay. Any other questions, guys? I love the questions. And I love that, the engaging and all that. Jeffrey says, I'm writing an app that has code that needs to be run on a separate thread. Nothing to do with presentation. How do people usually do it? Yeah, no, that's fine. Is it a Flutter app? First of all, because in Flutter, when Flutter is actually Dart, because it's the language. So Dart is single threaded, kind of like the way JavaScript is. So the way that you handle multiple threads in Dart is actually using something called isolates. Isolates, even the main application runs in a single isolate. Imagine like a single event loop processing all the commands that you send to Flutter. So if you want to create something like a heavy operation in the background, you have to create an isolate. So you can look at isolates in Flutter. They're very easy to use. You can just like run another thread, execute that computation, and then come back. But Dart on its own is actually single threaded. But yeah, you can actually do that.
What if it's like a computation that I don't know that's going to end? Like it's kind of a solver thing where
something that is in. Oh, you can use in Flutter you can use futures. You can actually and then you can just like leave it running until, let's say, it comes back. If you don't know when your operation completes, you have to rely on like futures, because it's something that is an operation that then you get notified when it's done. So you can look at futures, and then that will give you the capability of like, forget about it, like fire and forget, and then you get notified when your operation gets completed. So you could try that. Someone says, what is the difference between Firestore database and real-time database? Yes, Firestore database is again, like I say, the crown jewels of Firebase in Google. It's actually based on documents and collections, while real-time database is completely schemaless and it's just like a gigantic JSON. It's more optimized for reads and writes, while then and for like heavy computations and volumes, while then Firestore, which is a little bit more structured, is more optimized for like reads, for writes. The other one is more optimized for reads. But if you ask me, I'm gonna start a new project, start with Firebase Cloud Firestore instead of doing real time. Real time, even though it may be considered a legacy, is still being supported. So don't think that it's gonna be deprecated. But that's the difference between the two. One is more structured. The other one is not that structured. One is more optimized for reads. The other one more for writes. When you say you can use a collection that does not exist on Firestore database, it doesn't give you an error, or it creates it for you if it doesn't exist. It doesn't give you an error, and it creates it for you if it doesn't exist. So it's actually, you actually landed it correctly. If it doesn't exist, it doesn't blow up. It just brings you zero, like land zero. Oh, it doesn't exist. But immediately as you start pushing documents, then it creates it. Initially, if you don't have it, it doesn't create it for you. It's kind of like it keeps that reference ready for you to push documents. As soon as you push the first document, then it creates it. Last question in there. It says, is there a particular DB admin IDE that you can use to pre-populate and manage the Firestore DB? Yes, there are some right now, one escapes my mind, but there are some kind of like, like you can create like a web-based DB that you can connect it to Firebase and pre-populate it. Yes, you can do that. But people suggest using, the Firestore console to insert data and pre-populate it. But there are some out there. I can drop the link. I can follow up on that for you and give it to you. But yes, there is something like that. Joaquin says, oh, I see when you push documents. Yeah, so that's exactly when you push documents, that's when it gets created. Exactly. I love your questions, guys. And I don't want to, I want to be conscious of your time. If I can stay longer, I don't mind. I love the questions. If anybody has any questions, because again, I know maybe for you, it may be a little late, but please follow me this week and next week. I'm going to be in 3 more events. If you want to do a do-over on this one, follow the festival tracker, and then you can catch me on one of those events, and I'll be doing like this same event, and also dropping more knowledge and sharing it with the community just like this. And again, giving you free stuff, because that's what I'm all about. That's my kind of prize, free, until the time that your application becomes viral, and then yeah, you have to pay. So, but yes, any other questions, guys? Yes, great. Yes, that's right. So thank you, guys. Thank you so much. It was really a pleasure. I love the questions, and I love their interactivity.
Thank you, Roman. I think we're going to say goodbye for now, but it was great having you. And again, just a great presentation, great overview, and I really look forward to looking through more of those tutorials and workshops that you've kind of got there. It's great to have some self-paced resources for people to go through. So we'll definitely be sharing those around.
Definitely. You are good.
Thanks. And thanks to everybody for coming. This was a really well-attended meetup. So yeah, thanks for everybody who was asking questions and people that were following along. And even if you were just kind of watching and hanging out, I hope you learned a lot, and look forward to seeing you next time with our next GDG Dallas meetup.